There's a yearning that lives deep inside every human soul. It's not loud, it's not obvious. It's subtle, like a whisper that refuses to be silenced. It's that quiet ache for something more, something higher. Something the world can't give us, no matter how much we chase after success, wealth, or recognition. And if you've ever sat alone, even in a crowd, and felt that strange emptiness, the longing for meaning, for truth, for a purpose greater than yourself, then know this, you are not alone. This hunger is ancient. It's as old as humanity itself. More than 800 years ago, a Persian mystic, poet, and visionary named Farid ud-Din Attar captured this very longing in a way that still echoes through history. He wrote one of the most powerful spiritual allegories the world has ever seen, the Conference of the Birds. But make no mistake, this isn't just a story about birds. This is a story about us. About you. About me. About the confusion we feel, the excuses we make, the struggles we endure, and the soul's desperate journey to wake up to something greater than itself. So stay with me, because this ancient tale might just change the way you see your life. Let's rewind the clock back to the 12th century. Persia was alive with poetry, philosophy, and the search for spiritual truth. In the midst of this golden age of thought, Attar, a Sufi poet and mystic, penned his masterpiece. He called it Mantiq al-Tair, the Conference of the Birds. At first glance, it reads like a charming fable. A group of birds gather, restless and uncertain, longing for a king to guide them. But as the story unfolds, you realize, this is no children's tale. It's a mirror held up to the soul. Every bird, every valley, every trial, each one reflects something inside us, something we struggle with every single day. The story begins with a grand gathering. Birds from every corner of the world come together. Their voices fill the air, chatter, arguments, confusion, longing. And then comes the question. Who is our king? Who will lead us? Enter the hoopoe. A wise, regal bird, often seen in Islamic tradition as a symbol of spiritual guidance. He rises above the noise and speaks with calm authority. You already have a king. One far greater than any you've ever known. His name is Simurgh, a mythical bird, radiant and majestic, who lives beyond the mountains, past the deserts, past the illusions of this world. But there's a catch. To reach him, the birds must take a journey that will demand everything of them. They must shed their fears. Let go of their attachments. Break free from everything they think they know. Because this is not a physical journey, it's a pilgrimage of the soul. And here's where it gets interesting, because just like us, when faced with the unknown, the birds hesitate. Each bird has an excuse. The nightingale says he's too in love with the rose. The parrot dreams of immortality. The peacock longs for paradise but isn't willing to struggle for it. The duck insists he's already holy because he lives near the water. And the finch? He's just afraid. Sound familiar? These birds aren't just characters in a story. They are us. Our distractions, our obsessions, our fears, our pride. Attar holds up a mirror to human nature, and it's uncomfortable to look at. We say we want truth, love, and freedom. But when the path asks for sacrifice, we hesitate. We cling to comfort. We protect our egos. We avoid the climb. But the hoopoe doesn't give up. With patience and passion, he calls each bird higher. He tells them stories within the story, parables to awaken their souls. He reminds them, if you want to find the divine, you must lose yourself. Eventually, after much hesitation, a group of birds agree to go. And so begins the heart of this masterpiece, the passage through the 7 valleys. These valleys are not places on a map. They are stages of transformation. Each valley strips away a layer of illusion, breaking the seeker down and rebuilding them closer to the truth. The first is the valley of the quest. Here, the birds, and through them, us, learn what it means to truly seek. Not just to want something casually, but to burn for it. To yearn so deeply that nothing else matters. In this valley, seekers discover that questions are often more valuable than answers. That the journey itself is more important than the destination. Because truth isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you become ready to see. Then comes the valley of love. But not love the way Hollywood tells it. This is not butterflies and flowers. This is love that burns you alive. Love that shatters the ego, melts the self, and consumes everything you thought you were. It's terrifying. It's painful. But it's also breathtakingly beautiful. Here, love is not a feeling, it's a fire. A fire that purifies, that destroys illusions, that forces you to surrender. And many can't take it. Some birds turn back. Some give up. And isn't that just like us? How many of us pray for love, beg for connection, but run away the moment it demands growth? We say we want it, but when it tests us, when it asks us to change, we retreat. And maybe that's the point. The conference of the birds is not a tale to skim through lightly, or a fable to simply entertain the mind. No, this is a mirror. Every valley the birds cross, we are meant to cross, too. Every fear they face, every attachment they must release, every loss they endure, these are our fears, our attachments, our losses. Attar doesn't write to distract us from life. He writes to awaken us to it. His words aren't about giving answers. They are an invitation to start asking the deeper questions. So, what happens when the birds go further? What happens when they move past love and longing, into valleys of knowledge, detachment, bewilderment, and finally the annihilation of the self? Can they handle what waits for them at the end? More importantly, can we? Stay with me, because what comes next may just shift the way you see yourself, your soul, and the divine forever. The next stage is the valley of knowledge. But this isn't the kind of knowledge that fills shelves with books or inflates egos with degrees and titles. This is a different kind of knowing, an inner knowing. A truth that doesn't come from the outside, but from deep, still silence within. Here the birds discover something shocking. True wisdom isn't about adding more. It's about unlearning everything that isn't real. The busy, restless mind, the one that's always chasing, analyzing, proving, has to take a step back. And in that quiet space, the heart, once silenced, begins to lead. But this kind of knowledge is dangerous to the ego. It doesn't flatter, it dissolves. It whispers, "You are not who you think you are." And that truth shakes many birds to their core. Because this kind of knowing carries a price, the comfort of certainty. Here, many begin to crack, not because they've failed, but because the unbearable light of truth is shining too brightly. And then comes the valley of detachment. This is where things get serious. Because if you truly want to reach the Simurgh, if you truly want to find the divine, you must give up everything that isn't him. Status, name, reputation, wealth, even the desire for paradise itself. Every spiritual ambition, every reward you secretly cling to, all of it must fall away. For the birds, this realization is brutal. They begin to see that they cannot carry their identities into the realm of truth. The me they've clung to their whole lives simply cannot make the journey. But here's the paradox: the more they let go, the lighter they become. The more they surrender, the freer they feel. Slowly, they start to understand, freedom isn't having it all. Freedom is needing nothing. And maybe, just maybe, the real prison was never the world at all. The real prison was their own attachments to it. With fewer birds remaining, the bravest step into the valley of unity. And here, something extraordinary happens. The veil begins to thin. The illusion of separation, the idea that there is me and you, this and that, starts to dissolve. They begin to see everything as part of one vast, living, breathing reality. Every feather, every gust of wind, every grain of dust is woven into the same divine tapestry. And they realize something staggering: there was never anything outside of God. Every moment, every being, every joy, every sorrow, they were always within Him. But unity has a cost. It demands that you give up the story that you are separate, special, alone. And for the ego, this is unbearable. Some birds break under the weight of this truth. Others vanish into the brilliance of it. And maybe you feel it too, that discomfort rising in your own heart. Because this valley forces us to ask, who are we without our names, our roles, our pain, our stories? What if there was never a separation at all? What if everything we've been searching for has already been inside us, waiting? And then comes one of the most mysterious, haunting stages, the Valley of Bewilderment. You might think that after such deep spiritual insight, things would get clearer. But they don't. They get stranger. The birds step into a dreamlike state where nothing makes sense anymore. Up and down blur. Self and other dissolve. Time loses meaning. Logic crumbles. And suddenly, they realize, the divine is not a neat formula. It cannot be boxed, tamed, or explained. It is wild. Infinite. Beyond comprehension. Here, they don't feel enlightened, they feel lost. But it's a sacred lostness. A holy bewilderment. Because now they finally understand, the greatest truth of all is that the divine cannot be understood. And finally, the few remaining birds reach the most terrifying and sacred valley of all, the Valley of Annihilation. Here, the self dies. Not the body, but the ego. The I that says, me, mine, I am, shatters. There is no bird. No journey. No destination. No seeker at all. Only silence. Only presence. Only the vast, boundless ocean of being. Most never make it this far. It's too much, too raw, too real. But for the 30 who do, for the 30 who surrender completely, something miraculous happens. At last, after valleys of fire, valleys of silence, valleys of unbearable surrender, the birds arrive. This is it. The home of the Simurgh. The place of their king. But when they look around, there is no golden throne. No radiant being waiting to greet them. No booming voice from the heavens. Instead, all they see is each other. Confused, they look again, and what they realize stuns them like lightning striking the soul. They are the Simurgh. Not a distant ruler, not a separate godlike creature, but themselves, reflected back in their truest essence. In Persian, Simurgh means 30 birds. And suddenly, the riddle becomes clear. The king they had searched for wasn't someone else. It was the truth of who they already were, hidden beneath fear, attachments, and illusions, waiting to be revealed. The divine was never out there. It was always within. The journey wasn't about finding God, it was about remembering that they had never been separate from God in the first place. And maybe that's true for us, too. Maybe the answers we've been chasing through careers, relationships, achievements, even spiritual practices, aren't somewhere far away. Maybe they live within the silence behind our thoughts. In the space between our fears. In that quiet, unshakable knowing that we are already whole. The Conference of the Birds is not just a Sufi poem. It's a roadmap for awakening. It doesn't hand you answers. It doesn't tell you what to believe. It simply invites you to remember what you already are. And here's the miracle, you don't need to cross deserts or climb mountains. You don't have to walk through 7 valleys to begin. You just have to pause. To listen. To ask yourself honestly, what am I really seeking? And maybe even more important, who is the one that's seeking? So what happens after the birds discover they are the Simurgh? There is no celebration, no applause. Just a sacred, silent understanding. That everything they endured, the doubts, the losses, the valleys, the pain, was never about reaching something outside themselves. It was always about returning. Returning to the truth they had forgotten. Returning to the oneness they had always been. Returning to the essence that cannot be captured in words, but can be felt in every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of stillness. And so Attar ends not with answers, not with grand speeches, but with silence. Because once you arrive, what more is there to say? And maybe that is the most powerful ending of all. Because you don't have to be a mystic, a monk, or a poet to walk this path. You just have to wake up. To notice that so much of what you've been told about who you are is only a story. And beneath that story is something infinite. We are all birds on this journey. Each of us carrying wounds, dreams, fears, longings. Each of us searching, for love, for freedom, for meaning. Some of us get stuck in the valley of quest, always seeking but never still. Some burn in the valley of love, afraid of the fire. Some drown in knowledge, trapped in the mind. Many never reach detachment, too tethered to comfort and control. But every step, every small act of honesty, every brave letting go, brings us closer to what the birds discovered. That we are not broken. We are not missing something. We are not separate from the source. We are the Simurgh. We are the seeker. We are the soul on fire. So now the question turns to you. What valley are you in? What fears or distractions are holding you back? Are you clinging to an old image of who you think you are? Or are you ready, finally ready, to let it go, so something greater can be born? This isn't about religion. It's about awakening. It's about peeling back the layers of noise, shame, and false identity, until you stand, radiant and unmasked, in the brilliance of your true self. You don't need a map. You are the path. You don't need to find the divine. You're breathing it, living it, right now. You just forgot. But here's the good news, you can remember. Right here. Right now. When Farid Attar wrote this poem centuries ago, he wasn't just writing about birds. He was writing about you. About me. About all of us. And even after 800 years, his words still ring true. Because the human soul is timeless. The hunger for truth is eternal. And the invitation to awaken is always open. So let this story linger. Let it echo in the quiet corners of your day. Let it whisper to you through your doubts, through your distractions, through your rushing. And when you are ready, truly ready, begin your journey. Not outward, but inward. Because the greatest journey you will ever take, is the one that leads you back to yourself. If this story has stirred even the faintest spark in you, then it's already working. It's already knocking at the door of your heart. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing. To listen. To feel. To take one small step into the unknown. Because on the other side of that fear, that doubt, that valley, is the truth of who you've always been. The Simurgh. The seeker. The soul that was never separate. Thank you, for walking this journey with me.